So turn down the lights, lock the door. It's time for DJ's After Dark.
Hello, everybody. Danny J here. It is DJ's After Dark right here on the DJB Productions Network. Hit that subscribe button down below. Hit the notification bell. Leave us some comments. As always, share the channel. We have a great show for you today, but obviously I got to talk to all my buddies here. We got Dr. Rock Ray Thomas.
Let's bring back the summer of love, baby, 1967. How are y'all?
We got DJ Matt Sunner.
Morning, gentlemen.
We got from WMGK 102.9, Chris Gordon.
How you doing?
How you doing? And we got a special guest on the show today, but you know what we're going to do? We're going to roll the clip. So let's roll the clip.
My next guest is the funniest comedian in the world.
From New York, Brad Trackman, ladies and gentlemen.
Put your hands together for Brad Trackman.
Please welcome Brad Trackman, everybody. Brad Trackman.
Brad Trackman! My friends and I, we call this girl the other girl. I always get the other girl. Then it dawned on me, I'm like, oh my God, I'm the other guy. Neither. It's called heaven. I like the way they connect. That's unique. I like that. Cars can't do. I can go by cops 90 miles an hour. They're just like, he's got enough problems. Let him go. Let the poor guy go. On your personality next. It's a process. I'm like, no way, that's a big responsibility. I'm like, I need the green scissors! You know what I said? Thanks! Thank you guys so
much. Brad Trackman, everybody.
What's up?
Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
Welcome,
Brad.
How are you, sir?
We are
Welcome,
so happy
Brad.
to have you on here.
Welcome to the circus.
Welcome to the circus.
One of my favorite sayings is not my circus, not my monkey, not my circus.
Right.
Yes.
That's,
You ever hear that?
wife says my wife says that all the time. And I'm sure I drive her to say it.
I hate seeing myself, period. But that was brutal because you see the different incarnations of how fat I eventually got, you know? This pandemic has been the fucking worst.
Oh, it's horrible. It's horrible.
My wife last night asked me to dress up in a clown suit. That's where I draw the line. I'm done. You know what I mean?
He wants something different. Now, Brad,
Exactly.
Brad does stand-up comedy, obviously. Now, I talked to him previously before, and I told him, I said, listen, my expertise is more writing, so I like to do sketch comedy and stuff like that. And Brad, we discussed how that's a lot different, sketch comedy versus stand-up comedy and stuff like that. Tell us, as a stand-up comic, tell us the pressure of it. Tell us the difference, like how there's different ways to be funny, obviously, and there's different. What you do is different than what I do, as an example.
Yeah, I make a living. You don't.
Yeah, that's right. Boom.
Somebody had to tell him that. Somebody had to tell him.
But
there's another dream.
No, stand-up comedy.
No, you know what? I think he said it all. I think
that's it. Yeah. You're taking it. I'm not. It's all that.
But stand-up comedy, every show, even though you have the foundation of the same material that you're going to be doing, even though you might be implementing new material and whatever the case.
Right.
You can do 4 shows in one night, and it's going to be a different experience every single time because the variable of the audience always changes the chemistry of the material. So it's amazing how a joke that consistently works with almost every audience for one reason or another might not work with this particular crowd. So, I mean, that keeps it kind of new and it's not the same job every day. As far as pressure, I never really felt pressure because honestly, all kidding aside, I'm like the laziest guy in the world. Right. And being a stand-up comedian really allows you a lot of downtime to relax. So, I'd rather, go in front of 1,000 people and bomb than have to like fucking go 9 to 5. But that's just me, even though I've never bombed for 1,000 people.
I mean, as DJs, we have to go.
He may have bombed 1,000 times for one person.
Right.
Not. But I wanted to ask that. I wanted to ask that question to you because you brought up a really good point, which is I've always been fascinated about because I've never done it. I'm fans of I'm a huge fan of stand-up, but I've always I go there when I watch a stand-up comedian. Like you're about to go out there, you don't know what that room is yet until you're there, and then you're on that room, and you obviously you got some prep, but I always got the impression that stand-up. A lot of it, there's a lot of improv going on because you're kind of reading the room immediately the minute you get out there.
Yeah, there's for me anyway, that is how it is. I always read a room. I'm always in the moment, so to speak, as opposed to I started out as an actor. I went, the traditional school, the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, studied with William Esper after that. But there's a fourth wall with acting, whereas with stand-up, it's like, you're almost an idiot if you don't recognize what's going on. You're actually, stunting your own, success. I mean, because sometimes you could be in the middle of a joke and somebody could yell something out that's funnier than your joke, and if you don't capitalize on that, you're hurting yourself. So but dude, I smoked so much weed. Not this morning. my mind is like I forgot what your main point was. I went on my own tangent.
Dude, it's funny you say that though, because I've been friends with Brad for since about 2017 or so, and if you go on Brad's Facebook, if you go through his pictures, it's family pizza, family pizza, family pizza, family pizza, pizza, family pizza. I said, damn, this guy likes really a lot of pizza. No shit.
I'm obsessed with pizza.
You are obsessed with pizza. I've seen that. I was like, wow, man. I said, I'm surprised you're not 600 pounds.
There are worse obsessions.
I'm not proud of this, but I also started as an actor. I started in porn. It didn't last long for me, but it was.
He didn't have the mustache.
When you're laying there in bed and the woman's looking at you, going, "Hey, little guy, you're done."
So. But the problem is that was a Ring security video, so it wasn't really
really right at the front door. Dan, are you still dating women a lot like the Spice Girls? They're all different colors and they all go about doing their own thing. I was just wondering.
I tried to, My marriage put a major damper on my dating scene. I'll tell you that much. So
I still have hooks in the other room. We don't use them. And she asked me, "What are these hooks for?"
But now, Brad, as far as that's concerned, because we read as DJs, we read a room too, and once again, you can have a different room every night, that type of thing. And to escalate a point that you just made, I was listening to on Spotify yesterday. I work for UPS, so in the morning I had 4 hours to just myself doing stuff, and I listened to stand-up comedy during the day. And I was listening to the Blue Collar Tour was on, and it was the skit where all of them are out there and they're doing the song "I Believe," and they do the different "I believe this, I believe that" type of thing. And Larry the Cable Guy is playing a guitar, and some girl goes, "I love you, Larry." He goes, "I told you to stay in the truck," like that. You know what I mean? So like you said, if you don't capitalize on what the audience is reacting with you or interacting with you, you could get lost in it. And it reminds me of that movie Superstar, where the guy leans down to let the guy sing, and the guy was singing better than he was.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And then he ended up becoming the lead singer of that band when that guy got.
Well, I was at a comedy club once where the comedian was late. And we're sitting there, and we're a bunch of friends, and we're throwing down. We were on tour at the time, so we were hammered, and the comedian's late. So finally, my friend looks at me and he goes, "Fuck this," and he gets up and he walks up onto the stage, and he just starts to riff.
Nice.
And he is killing, and I'm sitting there going, "I never remember this guy being funny. He's just a guy I tour with, and but he's so drunk." he's just like, and then this happened, and he's just talking about his life, and it's funny shit. And I'm like, so finally, somebody comes out on stage. He goes, "You got to get off," because the comedian showed up. And he's like, "You got to get off," and he's like, "Why?" And he's like, "The comedian's here, and he actually now doesn't want to go on at all." Like, because he was that upstaging the guy. The guy did come on, and he was great. But we ended up going. I can't remember the comedian's name to save my life. But we ended up going back to his hotel room, and I can't tell you what we did, but because I know this is going to go.
It's a lot like your career, Dan. We can't.
Statute of limitations has not expired yet.
So, but that leads me to this, because one of the things I always wanted to ask, because when I asked this one last comedian, I wouldn't have remembered it. Do you prepare yourself for heckling, or is that just an innate thing that comedians have, that they're like, they can just zing these hecklers right back? But how do you deal with?
I mean, there's certain things that you can do to assuage like the situation. But I will say, I always shoot from the hip. But there's little tricks that you learn what to do. Listen, I mean, there's so many different factors to heckling. The most important thing is, like, the most important thing ever that took me years to learn. And I'm like a short dude. I have Napoleon complex. I fucking have like zero threshold. I see red instantly. But the most important thing I tell anybody when it comes to a heckler is, no matter what they're saying, no matter how much of an asshole they are, no matter how off base they are, never, ever, ever show your anger. Because if you show your anger, you lose the whole crowd. The audience expects you to be the consummate pro. Also, there's kind of an averse, like a psychological element to not getting angry. Like my wife and I, we fight, I'd say pretty much every day. We have like an argument, every fucking day. And I'm a professional arguer. I'm really good at it because, like I said, I'm a little guy. I grew up with my brothers who are all 6 foot plus because they have a different father. Hey. My father was like the star football player and went to the University of Miami on a full ride. And my dad, Seymour, is like a fucking midget. So,
I'm sorry. I'm just going to the movie Twins. I'm going to
the Wizard of Oz remake.
Yeah. My point is this, though. I can fuck my wife up just on her family alone for like hours. But if I'm really pissed, the thing that I do that really fucks her up and gets her angrier than anything is when she's yelling at me, when I go like this. It makes me lose my mind. And it's the same mentality you kind of have to have as a comedian on stage. You cannot let that person see that they're getting upset.
Right.
That's a really interesting point, and I think what you just verbalized there is exactly what I've seen. Because when a comedian is successful at that tactic, because immediately if a heckler is coming at that comedian in anger, even if they're saying something that's making somebody in the room laugh, but it's coming from anger, there is a psychological shift to what happens where it's like you see it 9 times out of 10. Where the comedian that keeps their cool and zings them back always keeps the room.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Always keeps the room. But there was a comedian once that lost his temper on stage somewhere on YouTube, and it was over. It was like that the person heckling him became the star. Yeah. And he was. I think he assaulted the guy or something. He hit him in the head with a guitar. I think that's what he did.
I've seen people. I don't know if you guys know Steve Byrne. Do you guys know Steve Byrne?
I know the name.
I know the name too. Yeah.
He had a show on TBS that he was the star of. I forget what the name of it was. He's also directed a movie that just came out about Asian comedian, but because he's half Asian, but he's a talented guy, a very talented guy, and he's a really good comedian. And I remember one time early in his career, before he got anything, he called this lady in the audience a cunt, and her boyfriend jumped on stage quicker than you can say quick. He just jumped up, boom, boom, boom. Steve was knocked out and taken to an emergency room, like from a stretcher. I mean, it was just like that fucking fast.
Wow.
So you got to be careful, man. You got to be careful what you say. And, you know, heckling is it's just one of those things where, like, the best way to avoid it is by doing well on stage and not having any gaps. You know, a lot of new comedians, they might be doing okay, and then they have that lull where they're like, what's my next joke or whatever.
Right.
Little lull that some inebriated asshole, like, be able to be like, yell something out. And
Interject themselves into the situation.
And you also have to be able to really differentiate who's a friend, who's a foe. Sometimes people yell the most innocuous thing, but you're on edge, especially if you're a new comedian. They could yell out something and you could be like, what the fuck? But you got to really listen, because sometimes they don't even mean any ill will to you. So
now, I recall a ventriloquist. It's not any of the. I know it wasn't Jeff Dunham, because but it was somebody that I'd seen. He was talking about. He had somebody heckling him, and he's got then the dummy, you know, making jokes about the guy, whatever. And the guy got so pissed, he jumped up and ripped the head off the dummy. Ripped the head off the dummy and chucked it into the audience. And he said, but it was great because he had been doing it long enough. He improvised, because as soon as he ripped the head off the dummy and threw the dummy head out into the audience, he like had his mouth completely loose, still staying in the whole ventriloquist deal, had the dummy's head scream like, ah!
Sounds like a Netflix mini special. It's awesome.
And it was like, I remember hearing that, and I'm thinking, like, that's great. That's like you say, you just kind of, you got to go with it. No matter what's happening on the stage, you got to go with it.
Now, in that video, that's hilarious.
In real
Was
life,
the dummy able to be
I don't know, because again, I didn't see the stand up, but it was an interview with the guy or whatever, or he was part of his bid, another special, or whatever. And he was talking about when it happened.
Funeral
I
service
can't, for the life of me, I can't remember who it was.
Called Losing Your Head.
Yeah, the funeral services were at Michael's and stuff like that.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Oh man!
But
actually,
somebody else had to pick up the bill. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mike.
Sorry.
Sorry.
All right, go ahead. What were you saying? I'm sorry.
I just said I opened for Dunham a few times early.
Did you?
Career, and,
Cool.
Yeah, he was a decent guy. My wife used to be the booker of Caroline's on Broadway. She was also my roommate.
Cool.
And then we hooked up. But prior to us hooking up, she was my manager.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Until like I banged her, and then like there's no way I told me what the fuck to do.
Yeah, you signed the contract, Brad. You signed the contract. That's what you did, right?
But I remember she came with me to DC at the Improv there, and I was featuring for Dunham.
Yeah.
And that was like the last time I ever saw him. But he was a millionaire back then. Now,
Oh, wow.
that guy is like fucking so successful.
He's always doing something too. Like he comes up on my Facebook like all the time. He's always doing something live. He's always doing shows.
My wife and I saw him in 2002 at the Baltimore Improv, and like we saw him on one of the first shows that he had introduced Ahmed the Dead Terrorist.
No,
that's
was
right
after 9/11.
I was with you.
Are you sure?
Yeah, in Baltimore. Yeah, we went
That's
to the
right.
Baltimore.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was right. It was you. I think it was you, me,
Me and
Stephanie,
Christine.
and you and Christine. Yeah.
Matt, just agree with him. Just agree with him.
Yeah. It was Mitch Hedberg that we saw him.
I love Mitch Hedberg. He was one of my favorites and gone way too soon.
Now let me ask you this, Brad. Let me ask you this: in a personal conversation with your personal friends, as a comedian, because I get this a lot, when you're a funny person, people are on edge whether or not they consider you an asshole or not, because they know you're going to come back to them with something like that. Do you get this kind of thing too, where it's like, oh, what smart aleck thing is Brad going to tell me now? Type of thing. Do you get that kind of thing?
I know. I'd be more worried about him losing his temper. He just admitted he's got a Napoleon complex, and he's going to kick the shit out of you to piss him off. Like that's a whole different dynamic already. You know.
I think you're right. I mean, I think people worry more about my temper than my real friends that know me. And I'm honest to God, I think the majority of my friends, even the ones that are not in stand-up, just happen to be funnier than me. I mean, just like they're just so funny. I was just getting a text. I got this one guy. His name's Brad as well.
Yeah. And
you know, the guy's a beer rep. He sells, but hysterical, really quick-witted.
Yeah.
Doesn't take my shit. None of my real friends take my shit. Nobody respects me. Nobody.
But you know, because I get that. I mean, I get that a lot. It's like,
what, you don't get respected?
I don't get respected at all. No, I don't get respected at all. I get
no, we don't.
And the thing is, it's like, once again, being quick with it, and you say stuff, and they're laughing, and I think they feel guilty when they laugh because they know they shouldn't laugh at some of the things I say to them and stuff like that. And then I get that. Well, Dan insults me on a regular basis. I'm like, oh, come on, stop. I don't insult you. I make you part of my act. There's a big difference.
It's almost a compliment if you utilize somebody you know personally.
Yeah.
Your whatever.
Yeah,
whatever.
I mean, I've been, you know, with doing gigs, and there were times that we had some drunk people come in. There was a guy who actually got into my space on stage, and I made the whole set about that. That became a thing where actually, I don't even think we had to play again for the rest of the set because that interchange became much more entertaining with that kind of thing. But that leads me to the other thing.
I apologize, but like, you seem like such an interesting guy. You're a musician, obviously. What do you play, and what is your background? Because you know.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm a musician. You know, I toured for, you know, touring musician. Well, not now with the pandemic, but you know, touring and just being out there performing.
What do you play? Are you lead, or are you the front man, or are you the?
No, I'm the guitar player. But for some reason, I'm the one that ends up with these interactions. Like the front guy never gets bothered. Like no one else in the band. Like for some reason, it's me. I don't get it.
Wow. Is that telling you something, Chris? It's telling you something, isn't it?
Like,
something.
Why?
Something.
I'm just trying to play.
And I got news for you, Brad. He's off the chain. His guitar work is in.
Oh, he's ridiculous. Yes. He's ridiculous.
I appreciate that, guys.
Who have you? What bands have you opened for? And
well, I toured for years out of Nashville with an artist named Michael Mason, and so we were touring with everyone from what was his name? Wade Hayes.
Yeah, Wade Hayes.
Guy.
Oh,
we toured with him for a while. But in the rock thing, I did some tours playing for Ted Neely, and then oh God, the opening acts. I mean, the people we opened for. You know, everyone from you know all the hair guys back in the day. Yeah, a lot of that.
I just downloaded Dockin last night on my iPhone.
Rocking with Dockin.
Yes.
I'm actually. I have to admit. Yeah. So yeah, but I was out there. I was out in LA, and I was doing that for a while as well. Not that I was a little later than that.
I think comedians always want to be musicians, and musicians always want to be comedians.
I think you're right. I think you're right. They do. You know.
I remember I was working with Chelsea Handler.
Chelsea, really?
Yeah.
Very cool. Is she really cool or like an ass, Brad? I really don't, because I know she's got both personalities.
Listen, I know I haven't seen Chelsea in a while, but when I knew her really well.
Okay.
Out with her, I spent time with her.
Yeah.
I partied with her.
You're kind of getting that, but go ahead.
I wish, you know, and I don't want to get on with the podcast and everything, but yeah. So,
no, she's good people.
No, she's cool, and she's very talented. She's very talented. But I remember one time we were at this club, Hilarities, and Hilarities is this beautiful venue in Ohio, in Cleveland. I mean, like maybe the nicest comedy club in the country, beautiful. And I would headline like Wednesday, Thursday, and Sunday, and I would feature for her Friday and Saturday. So she came in a day early. She was checking out my show, and the band, what the fuck, the Animals, you know,
yeah.
Not but Eric Burden,
right?
The remake.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Eric Burden was the only real member, but then he surrounded himself with some incredible musicians,
right?
So anyway, they came after the show to congratulate. They came to talk. We happened to be staying at the same hotel. I was the only one that had weed, and they're like, "Please come back." They had a suite, and I became really, and I'm still friends with the lead guitarist who has his own thing going on. He's an amazing guitarist by the name of Eric McFadden. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with Eric, but he's a badass dude. I mean, a real badass. I'm talking like Neil Schoen fucking gives him guitars and
Nice.
like
Nice.
fucking, you know, he's from the San Francisco area originally. That
Right.
season. I remember one time I opened for Dana Carvey in concert in a theater outside of San Francisco. And this guy, Eric McFadden, happened to be in town. He's like, dude, I want to see you. He comes to my show and I put him on the guest list. And the owner of the theater, Lucy, was like, is this Eric McFadden, the guitarist? I said, yeah. She tells Dana, and Dana's like, dude, I love this guy. He knew of him too. And he's like, would he come out on stage with me doing chopping broccoli?
Yeah.
They get him a guitar. Dude, Dana gives him a guitar solo, full standing ovation. It was the most tasteful, most beautiful acoustic guitar solo I've ever heard.
Awesome.
But yeah,
That's
I love
crazy.
music, dude. I love guitarists too. I think it's the best. I love it.
Do comedians like other comedians, or do you guys all have an animosity for each other?
I think both. I think
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's certain comedians that you just have to say, fuck.
Yeah.
That guy is so talented, there's no way he wouldn't make it. But I don't like to try to watch other comedians, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
If
But
they
Brad, it's a
do
lot like
something-
being a DJ. Do you learn, like I learned from years of playing, being a DJ, you learn from other DJs. You
Yeah.
learn there are good things about people and you carry it into your thing going, you know, if you can learn something from somebody every day, you do. So I'm sure, like when I did the Mitch Hedberg thing and you went like that with the thumbs up, you learn to become a better comedian by listening to other comedians, don't you?
I don't know. I think there's, like I was saying, like it's sometimes not good because you don't want to become that person. You don't want to.
Yeah.
I get
That
that.
makes sense. That makes sense.
But, I mean, Mitch Hedberg was one of the purest, greatest comedic writers of all time. A genius.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
a genius.
Yeah.
I loved the fact that, I mean, he'd also recognized when stuff wasn't working. I mean, I have his, from when we saw him, I bought his CD. It's Strategic Grill Locations or whatever.
Oh, God.
And he's talking, and he has a couple jokes bomb, and he's like, the title of this CD is going to be Hit and Miss. And it's because he's realizing it's like,
It's so
okay,
true.
and it didn't
Yeah.
work. And it's just like, he's like, and I'm going to re-edit this. I'm going to put your laughter in on the jokes that bomb, and people are going to think that you're laughing at stuff that's unfunny.
Like I said, I remember that thing he did about the dinner reservations about the
Yes,
like,
yes.
oh my God, that was hysterical. And that was
People are
comedy.
missing. People are
What
missing.
happened to Dufresne's? They're gone. Did somebody throw them in the lake or something? It was neat. It was neat.
Interestingly enough, I know this from my producer of both of my CDs, which are both available on iTunes.
Okay. Danny, buy it for us, all right? Every one of us, all right? Pick it up. Go ahead.
Yeah, Dan, we got to remember to link those in the description.
But the
when we
guy
put it
that
up.
was
Put it up. Put him in the
my
link.
CD was in the audience for. He was friendly with Mitch too. He said that Mitch's Comedy Central special, if you ever see it,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
he fucking bombed.
It
I
did.
mean,
Right.
crickets, but they did. They filled it in with laughs.
Get out. Get
That's
out.
a fact. I mean, you know, but that guy was, you know, really, really great comedian. Early in my career, I had a mentor from LA, this guy by the name of Willie Barcena. And Willie has done The Tonight Show literally, I think, like 15 times. Has his own Netflix special. He has his own Showtime special, has his own comedy hour. I mean, dude, real great guy. And it really helped me.
Right.
I don't know if I would even have any success if it weren't for his mentorship. His, you know, there's so many little things about comedy, like editing.
Right.
You know, you could be a great writer, but if you can't consolidate your words and get to the punchline quick enough, if you don't learn that, you're fucked. You know,
Right. Right. Now, I mean, is that
That's-
just come
that's
down to your?
where I
Is
wanted-
that just your timing, or is that your?
that's a whole other thing. It's time.
Yeah.
Telling a joke and feeling comfortable on stage. And sometimes people were much better writers early on, and then they eventually get comfortable enough to be, believe it or not, themselves. You know, when you're doing stand-up, you try to be a stand-up comedian. And sometimes when you just let yourself just be yourself, that's when the magic happens, so to speak, you know?
So that brings me to a question, Brad, that I had was, when you're putting this material together, because obviously, you know, you're putting material together throughout time, you know, and you say you're going out, you got a tour coming up, you're putting together this material for the tour. And I always wanted to know, because I've heard about writing processes, you know, being an artist myself, I write a certain way. Everyone writes their own way. So when you're putting this together, what is the way you do it? Like, how do you put this together? And then, of course, then talk about bringing it live and then finding that timing and that flow. You know, I've always
Great question. I mean, and like you said, you're absolutely right. Comedians have their own way of developing material. There's no right or wrong. I know, you know, probably in the top 2 or 3 comedians right now is Bill Burr.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
Bill
oh my God, he's great.
wants to flush things out on stage. He has an idea, he flushes it out on stage. Where I'm more of a joke writer, not a storyteller, not he flushes things out. Where I'm more like set up punch. So for me, my process at this point in my career, earlier on, I would force myself to write hours and hours a day. Right now, I already have hours of material. So the jokes that are really coming out of me are from my real life experience, whether it be a situation with my wife, my friend, something that an observation at the supermarket or in real life.
Yeah.
And I write it. And then usually, I mean, like, you know, for me, my jokes are so short and concise. I have a good feeling whether it's going to work on stage. And sometimes, to answer another part of your question, you have to work it out. It might take a couple times. Dude, I'm really bad at memorizing shit.
Okay.
It's my own shit.
Right.
So until it flows from your mouth, like really, and you get that timing, it might take a couple times, you know?
Yeah.
I'm working on a bit right now. And honest to God, I had another comedian who I'm not going to mention.
Right.
He originally offered me $500 for the joke. This is before I even tried it. Then he went up to $1,500, and I was like,
nice.
"No, I'm not selling the joke." You know, I don't really like to do that. But the point is, I've taken this joke that this guy just heard over the phone.
Yeah.
I've only tried it twice so far. It definitely has a lot of promise, but it's not there yet. It's gonna. My first CD is called Safecracker, and honest to God, I remember I was on a date with my now wife, and we were seeing. This is how long ago this fucking was. We were in New York City. We're seeing the movie The Score with Marlon Brando, Robert De Niro, and Ed Norton. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So we're watching the movie, and I remember De Niro was having a tough time getting into a safe.
Yeah.
I told my wife, who was then my girlfriend, I said, "Man," I go, "that's like me trying to get into your pants," which made us both laugh. But I knew there was something there with that metaphor of getting safe and getting into a chick.
Yeah.
So, and hence, it took a long time. It took almost 6 months to develop the bit, which is Safecracker, but it ended up being the title of my first CD. It was like a really worthwhile thing to keep working on.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I see.
That's awesome.
That's interesting, because you know what the illusion is here. This is the illusion to someone like myself.
Stand-up comedy is an illusion, by the way.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, that's the illusion, is that when you're watching a comic, it really feels to the audience that this is just happening right there. Like, everything that just came out of that guy's mouth is literally happening instantaneous. And what you just you pulled the curtain back a little bit.
Yeah.
And we're like, well, no, that took 6 months, dude. Like, that's insane.
That is a very astute, very astute observation. You're 1,000,000% right.
A question for you though. Now, you were talking about how like you ran the joke by another comedian and he immediately offered you money for it and stuff like that. You say, "I'm not selling it." Is the comedian community, the comedy community, is it pretty safe within reason to sit there? You can run stuff like that and not worry about that guy just saying, "Well, fuck it, I'm just going to use this joke."
Well, I mean, I would only do it among peers that like
they
already have a career. They're my friends. There's no way they could get around like doing it without me knowing. I mean,
right.
Although I'll say it here on this podcast, dude, are you guys familiar with? He won Last Comic Standing. I think he was one like the last guy to win it. Felipe Sparza.
Yeah. It sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Yes.
So like when I moved out to LA and I was living with Willie for a little bit till I got my own place, and aside from Willie, my best friend in LA was Felipe, and he was my peer. Like he was certainly not ahead of me. He was at the same level, if not a little below me. And this guy ended up like becoming very successful.
Right.
But we were real friends, man. I mean, he introduced me to his gang. He used to be in the gang. He's like, I'm on hiatus, bro. But he
sold you some pizza. Yeah,
sold you some pizza.
I went to his kid's birthday party. We were real friends. He got me a day job as a security guard when I was out there. I mean, really good dude. And then like, I get another friend years later. I had already like, you know, been on TV and really started doing pretty well. My friend calls me, goes, dude, he goes, look at Felipe's website. Look at his video. This is before Last Comic Standing. And sure enough, man, he's doing one of my jokes that I created in LA and eventually did on national TV. He's doing it word for word, man.
Oh, shit.
So I reached out to him. I mean, that wasn't cool. That's like taboo.
Right.
Don't do
Right.
that shit. So I said, hey, I go, you know, what's up, dude? I go, you took my corporate woman joke, and he wrote, my mentor Willie has a really bad, and in his defense, he's always right, but he has this thing. Everyone associates Willie with telling people that they're stealing his bits.
Oh, gotcha.
They all do. So he replied to me, he goes, okay, Willie. And I wrote, okay, Carlos.
Oh.
And the fact of the matter is, dude,
You minced him.
I had him dead to fucking rights. Dude,
Right.
Every part of the joke, everything. So he knew he was guilty. And the thing is, if he would have manned up and been like, dude,
it was gonna,
you know, I love the joke. I fucked up. I'm sorry. I would have been like, no problem.
Right.
Because he didn't man up, I'll go out of my way to tell people because if he stole from me, chances are he's stolen from you.
Right. No, you're right.
That's wild, man. That's wild.
Not cool.
That's not cool. That's like Danny, like when he steals everybody else's women. You know what I mean?
You know what?
Your biggest thing is still open up for the Partridge Family, isn't it?
At least I'm consistent. That's all I have to
you are.
You know, and I tell people right up front, I'm like, there's no shame behind this. Ray, I'm going to sleep with your wife, but just to let you know.
She is hot.
You know, I want to say, you know, Ray's such a great guy. While I'm doing it.
Right. Oh,
while I'm doing it, Ray is such a good guy. I just want you to know that. Because
he's getting to be such a big ass.
Right. Now, what we're going to do next, and I told the guys, Brad, we're going to have everybody, they have a joke that they want to put out there. And we want you, as the professional, to go ahead, and I want you to kind of quasi-judge these jokes. But before we do that,
is there going to be like a winner?
You could be if you want to.
Pizza, Brad.
Pizza. You all get pizza.
There we go.
But what we're going to do first, we're going to look at a little bit more Brad Trackman.
Before we do that,
yes.
I'm interested. Are you? I'm just assuming all of you guys love pizza. What's your favorite?
It's my favorite.
I don't.
You don't
like pizza?
I don't eat pizza.
Why? Because of the carbs?
Yep.
I'm a diabetic.
No, I can't. That's why I can't drink beer. It sucks. Look, I hate to say this, and you know what, Brad? This is going to give you plenty of shit to work with. Who I just got done saying earlier, survived touring the South, did all the crazy shit in the 80s. I can't believe I still have a, what do they call those things between the nostrils here? I still have all that intact. But you know what I did develop? A gluten intolerance.
Oh.
That's like
terrible.
Poor
That's
man.
It's terrible.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
That's like having anxiety. What a fucked up thing to have.
Yeah.
Because
So, anyway,
anxiety is a real thing, but I just think it's one of the things you have to make fun of regardless.
Yeah,
I'm not that sensitive to people with
I think
anxiety.
everything is fair game. You got to make fun of it. If you can't laugh at your shit, then you know.
No,
So yeah, unfortunately, I can't eat.
If I'm going to eat chips, they got to be gluten free.
What's some
right now? They're gluten free.
pizza place your go-to?
Ray, what's your go-to pizza place?
We have a place here in Broomall, and it's insane. I think it has to do with Sylvester Stallone, and it's called Rocky's. And the crust is
Are they
off
good?
the wall.
I'd never gone there. Are they good? Are they really good?
Their crust has like a sweetness to it, so it's almost like eating like a semi-sweet like cookie. Oh my God! And the way they mix it with the God forbid half Italian sauce. It's insane. Their food is so good.
Is it Greek style or is it Italian style? Because there's a big difference in pizza.
It's Italian style.
Is it Italian? Okay.
It's Italian style.
Because that's a big difference. I'm not a fan of Greek style pizza.
Huh?
I'm not a fan of Greek style pizza, which is generally like your Thunderbird and stuff like that. I'm just not a fan because of the fact that the cheese can come off like a disc, and you could throw it like a frisbee. Like you know what I mean? Like the whole thing. Like I don't like that kind of thing. I like a good Italian pizza.
Now, next time I go to a restaurant, I'm going to pick up the cheese and fling it like a freaking frisbee because you just said that. And it's
right?
Like,
it's the truth. I'm a chicken bacon ranch guy. I love me some chicken bacon ranch.
Talking about Greek. Forget it. Oh God. Jesus God.
Now for me, now I haven't really found a place here in South Carolina that as far as like a small independent place I really like so far because there's not too many of them. We're surrounded by Pizza Hut and Papa John's and all the Domino's and everything else. Yeah. But when I was still living up there in Pennsylvania, Leandro's Pizza House in Upper Darby was my go-to.
Mm-hmm.
We had a guy when I was in Caruthersville, Missouri. I don't know why the Philly thing came in, but I was in Caruthersville, Missouri, and the guy behind the desk at the hotel we were staying at, this guy could have been on CSI. Like, you're like, the minute you walked in, you're like, that's a serial killer. He's just working the night shift. You could tell. Like, I was like,
look, Chester Molester's working the desk.
He finds out the only guy in the band. I'm from Philly. I'm the guy from and so comes knocking on my door. I'm like, I open the door. Now I'm like, okay, he's here to kill me. I'm like, can I help you? And he's like, you're from Philly, right? And I was like, yeah. He's like, can you send me a Geno's cheesesteak?
Oh, God.
Like, this is back in the 90s. I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you talking about? He goes, you can pack it on ice and send it. And you know what? I fucking did.
Did you?
Yeah. I was like, okay, that's.
You knew where you were at. That's why.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to throw in your arm, too.
I don't know I don't know if it got to him or not, but I fucking said it.
Brad, what is your go-to, Brad? Because I see a lot of pizza on your page, but what's your go-to?
Lately, because I really don't find the greatest pizza in our neck of the woods. It's usually other places, whether it be Central or North Jersey, but or of course New York City.
Yeah.
But I like this place, Di Lorenzo's, which is the traditional tomato pie.
Yes,
it's really good.
Yes, and in fact, I like it. You like it when they do the sauce. It's the cheese and then sauce on top.
That's tomato pie.
Is that well, tomato pie to me, it's like when you get this
or upside down pizza.
Upside down pizza, yeah. Because for me, tomato pie is when you get just the big rectangle, and all it is tomato.
Yeah, my favorite pizza though is a coal fire. I love coal fire.
Yes.
Some good shit.
Pizza's good.
Yeah, so play the clip.
Guys are nerding out on pizza. I love it.
That was. So transitioning from pizza to Brad Trackman. We're going to look a little bit at Brad Trackman, then we're going to come back and we're going to do some jokes right here on DJs After Dark.
Got some cute couples here. I always wonder what attracts one person to another person. I read an article had the top 10 likes and dislikes of women. Number one like, ladies, was intelligence. Come on. Come on. I've never heard a woman go, ooh, read me a word problem. Come on, I want you to treat me like an illiterate. Number one dislike, short guys. This is true. You never hear a woman, I like a man that fits on my lap. I do. I find it sexy when a guy sits on a bus and his feet can't touch the ground. They just kick a lot. They dangle. It's sexy. I'm short. I'm a short guy. Remember class photos? I was always the kid in the front row holding the sign Indian style. Remember that, dude? take the picture. I'm a lefty too. That was always difficult being a left-hander. Yeah. We had green scissors, everybody. Yeah, the green scissors, green handles. It was very awkward asking for those. I need the green scissors. Me, Brad, if they didn't have green scissors, we'd use regular scissors upside down. Need some help over here? This is impossible. This is not cutting. How about the eraser-made pen? Forget about iPads, flat screen TVs. A pen that erased. Blew your mind. But not if you're left-handed. I would write and erase it with my own hand. Teacher's like, where's your work? You're not going to believe this. My hand ate my homework. I'm a father myself. I have a kid. Really, I love being a dad. It's the best. You know? It's really cool. I was on the fence about it at first. You know, my best friend was like, "You got to have a kid. Be the best thing you ever did. Have a kid. Give it a shot." Call him up. I'm like, "Christina's pregnant." He's like, "Your life is over." What were you thinking? But yeah, dad's here. Where are my dads? Dads? Yeah. Yeah, all right, buddy. What do you got?
3 boys and a girl.
3 boys and a girl. That's great. The best of both worlds. That's wonderful. Did you cut the umbilical cords with any of your kids? Yes, there you go. They asked me to cut the umbilical cord, too. I'm like, I need the green scissors! They cleaned my son up. They put him in my wife's arms. And this is just to give everybody here a perspective how crazy she was that day. She just looks at me real serious. She's like, would you die for him? I just met him. I don't even know this guy. I'm going to have to say no on this one. We just met. Now I would. I'd die for him without even thinking about it, but then, no way. That's a no-go. Yeah, he's in 6th grade, and he's doing very well in school. I told him, I go, don't get cocky. It's going to get harder, progressively harder every year. You're going to have algebra. Numbers and letters together. No way, Dad. How does that work? I have no idea. You and a tutor. He's all about his cell phone now. He's like, I want a cell phone. All my friends have cell phones. I want a cell phone. You're 11 years old. You don't need a cell phone. And guess what? You're not getting a cell phone. How old were you when you had your first cell phone? 29 years old.
Guys, I gotta tell you something, okay? You know what's interesting? I don't know if you guys are familiar with this whole dry bar thing, but it's like if you
I was going to ask about it.
You can't get a Netflix special pretty much right now. That's your alternative. And
okay.
But the thing is, you have to go to Provo, Utah, perform for 100% Latter-day Saints. So it has to be innocuous. But the deal is this. A lot of the people that have done these dry bars, they're really not great comics. They suck. Right. They really suck. Okay. I get it. And just when I'm getting it, they're just starting to put in some real comics. My particular show, I had to go on fucking first on the first. So if you watch my special, they edited it and stuff. But the beginning of my special, you'll hear the audience that's like, you know, they were so fucking dead. They had a warm-up guy that just sucked. Right. So I went on first, and I happened to be on the show with 2 other guys that happened to be better than me. I get the luck that I'm on the one fucking dry bar shoot that happens to have Bob Zaney, who's like a legend, and this other guy who's done like every talk show. There it is, Mike Kalakanas or whatever the fuck his name is. He's great too. So I got fucked.
That fucking guy.
And plus I'm a Jew and they hate Jews. as well wore a shirt that said, "I killed fucking Jesus."
Now, so Brad, did it
was much better.
did it
I didn't
occur
go
to
on.
you?
I didn't go on first the second show. Switched the order.
I was going to ask, did you get high before you went on? Like,
I
you know,
never, ever do.
No?
No, man. I'm always like, business is business, pleasure is pleasure. I need to be really focused and sharp to do what I do.
Right. And you said that you don't really get.
I mean, that's cool.
Have I?
I'm
Yes.
But back in the day when I was a stupid kid.
But you don't really get nerves though, do you anymore? Going on stage? No. Nah, I was gonna say, yeah.
No.
Probably not at this point. But so our guys think they're funny.
I love that T-shirt idea.
Yeah.
That would have been great for you to come out with that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I would have bought that. So I know Chris has a joke that he's dying to do. I know
I'm
Ray
not
has
dying to
another
do
joke.
it because
He's
here's
dying.
the thing. It's look, okay, so and I said that I think I talked to you about this. It's a joke. It's not stand up. It's not it's no.
All right, well that's all I told him to do. I think
There's no thing. It's just a fucking joke.
Don't worry,
no, I
Chris.
don't have to go
We'll
first.
judge you on it. We'll judge you for future
all right.
shows.
So you want me to go first?
Yeah, go first. I'll make you big.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so Brad just got done talking about how horrific it was for him to go. Okay, thank you. Hey, look,
You're on stage.
Chris is big.
I killed Jesus.
Touring the South. Go ahead.
It's so bad.
All right, look, real quick, I'll tell the joke, but keep it on the theme. This was told to me by a legendary jazz musician in Philly, so I'm just gonna bring it. Okay, here we go. Fuck, Jesus Christ, fuck you guys, put me on the spot. Thank God.
Chris is waking up, honey. Go ahead.
Yeah, I did. I just got it. It's the earliest I've been awake. I don't know, since the pandemic started.
Are you drinking at fucking?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, I got a late start.
Brad, it's orange juice.
I got a late. Yeah, it's orange juice. All right.
It's sweet tea.
It's sweet tea.
Again from the South, Matt.
All right. Jesus Christ, that's it.
So
I'll never teach again. All right, so here's the joke.
For this show from now on. Go ahead.
So, guy wakes up one morning. A guy in his 40s. He wakes up one morning. And he finds this kind of pimple on his forehead. He's like, "That's odd. Kind of weird. The weird time of my life to be breaking out." So, but he ignores it. A couple days later, it's getting really noticeable. And no matter what he does, this fucking thing ain't going away. So he's like, "Well, I might as well go to somebody and get it looked at." So he goes to the doctor and he goes, "Hey doc, I don't know what this is. I don't know. Maybe you can refer me to someone." And the doctor looks at it. He's like, "Hey, you know what? This looks a little weird. We're gonna run some tests." So they run some tests on this thing, and he gets the results back. The doctor calls him and says, "You need to come in, man. We got to have a talk." Guy comes in, sits him down. He goes, "Look, I got some really bizarre news. We found what this is. Sir, I don't know how to tell you this, but you have a penis growing from your forehead." He was like, "What the fuck are you talking about? I got a penis growing from my forehead." He goes, "Yeah, it's not a pimple. It's an actual, it's genitalia, and it's growing from your forehead." So he's like, "Well, cut it off." He's like, "Unfortunately, we can't do that, sir. It's attached to your frontal lobe. If we cut it off, you'll be a vegetable." So the guy says, "What the fuck are you talking about? You're saying that I'm going to have a full-grown penis coming out of my forehead?" And the doctor looks at him and he says, "Well, you'll never see it." He goes, "What do you mean I'll never see it?" He goes, "Well, by then you'll have a pair of balls in front of your eyes."
That's funnier than it should be.
It's the best I got, and it wasn't mine. It was Jimmy Bruno's. Thank you, Jimmy.
Who would like to go next, Ray or Matt?
Matt, Ray, go.
Matt, you want to go?
Ray.
You want to go, Ray? You want to go, Ray?
You want to go me?
Yeah, we'll go. Yeah, Ray.
Simple. The bottom line is, you guys all tease me all the time that my wife is like really hot, and she is, and she's cute.
Yeah.
We were getting a little older, and we were, I think we were watching like 50 Shades of Grey, and I'm an older man. I'll give you like 43 shades. That's the limit for me. But the thing is, we were going at it the other day, and and I feel pretty good. And back and forth, and I think like I'm pretty good. And like she like looks at me and like, oh yeah, and she stares right up at the ceiling, and you know that you have a hot relationship when she looks at the ceiling and goes, you know what, we got to paint. So you know what I mean. So there it is, guys.
All right.
Got to paint.
Honey, I sucked in front of the big comedian.
Matt, you're going up, buddy.
Okay. I don't know if I heard this somewhere, cause I looked around the internet because I figured if I heard it somewhere, I wanted to make sure, but or if I just kind of came up with. I've been telling it so long that I think I came up with this one, but I'm not going to pat myself too hard on the back. But the old adage, what came first, the chicken or the egg? It's everybody knows it has to be the chicken because eggs get laid, but they can't come.
I like it.
Oh, God.
And in trying to find that somewhere on the internet, I found another one which I thought was a lot funnier. Is what's the worst part of being an egg?
What?
You only get laid once, and it's by your mother.
Oh,
Oh my God! Now I got to throw another one. Why can't Smokey the Bear's wife have any children?
I don't know.
Because every time she gets hot, Smokey stomps the shit out of her with a shovel.
With a shovel. So good. All right. Years ago, about 1981, I think it was, something like that, Dolly Parton did a Christmas special, right? And on the Christmas special, she had a number of different celebrity guests that were like acting in the show. And I think one of them was actually Sid Caesar, okay? And he told this joke on the show. And I remember as a young kid, I comprehended the joke and I thought it was funny and it stuck with me all these years. So the joke is, this priest is walking down the street and he's walking past a construction site. And in the construction site, it's like the day off and there's no construction going on, but he looks through the gate and he sees a little boy there playing, and he's playing like in all this like mud and stuff like that. But what he notices is that all around the construction site, a lot of battery acid and like harsh chemicals from the different machinery that's there, etc. So he says, well, you know, this is kind of like unsafe. Let me go in and talk to this boy. So he goes to the little boy and says, hey, little boy, like, you know, you're here in this construction site here. What are you doing? And the kid says, well, I'm making mud pies. And he goes, well, it's so dangerous around here. There's all this battery acid. He goes, you know, if you touch this and touch your eyes, you could hurt your eyes and really cause some damage. So he goes, why don't you come back with me, come to the church? And he goes, and you can make mud pies with holy water. So the kid says, well, what's so big about holy water? He goes, well, let me tell you. I took some of this holy water, I rubbed it on a lady's stomach, and she had a baby. The kid goes, oh, that's nothing. He goes, I grabbed some of this battery acid, I shoved it on a cat's ass, and it ran faster than a motorcycle.
As you can see, Brad, you have absolutely nothing to fucking
Nothing to worry about.
Nothing to worry about.
for at least the next 5 years.
Brad's statement in the beginning was, I'm getting paid and you're not.
Although,
Andy,
hey, you know,
surprise. I submitted a bill myself. All right.
although
So,
this one, and Chris may have heard this because he's interacted with enough musicians. And this is one I heard from Corey Taylor of Slipknot, Stone Sour, and apparently he heard it from Lemmy of Motorhead. Apparently it was Lemmy's favorite joke. But there's a kid and his grandfather. They're sitting on the front porch of the house, and you know, the kid says, you know, something about he's older. He's more like in his 20s. But he's like, you know, man, this economy. The old man says, this economy sucks, and the kid says, gee, Grandpa, tell me something I don't know. And the old man says, your grandma can take it up the ass up to my elbow.
That's horrible.
I think I've heard that.
who is editing this shit?
not a person, not a one is editing anything.
But I do have
DJs After Dark, no filter.
No.
Okay, I do have one more question with Brad. Is how is the current culture affected what you do?
It's a nightmare, man.
Is it really?
I mean, like, you know, I'm even scared to say shit on podcasts now. You know?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I seriously edited.
I mean, fortunately, with you guys, I can say anything because I don't think anyone's going to watch this. But
Yeah, Brad, you've learned already. You've hit in the show one time. He knows.
Brad's got 13 more appearances on the show coming up.
Well, that's interesting because like now you know why.
I feel like I'm in a men's club. Like we need to get bagels or something.
Now,
no,
Ray, let me ask you. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, Brad. Go ahead. Brad, go ahead.
dude, I mean,
That's fucked up.
Colleges are a nightmare. I used to make 6 figures a year easy doing universities around the country. I was obviously a lot younger and stuff, but now, like every once in a while, I'll do a college.
Yeah.
Every time I do, it's like you see the horror in the kids' faces when I say something that is like, even not even, things can be misconstrued. Like I have this joke that's like the farthest thing, and I actually did it in my dry bar. I got a good response. I was nervous about doing it with the Latter-day Saints, but I have this bit where I say, you know, I don't care what color you are. I don't care what religion you are. I don't care what your sexual preference is. To me, people are people. Good people, bad people. That's it. Even the KKK is coming around. You can Google this too. It's a fact. There are branches of the KKK that are now accepting blacks, Jews, and gays. I mean, how crazy is that?
That's nuts.
They may as well change your name, OKKK.
Well, Danny, you should feel good. You can use a unisex bathroom now. See?
I can.
Yeah.
My point is, that is really like, that is not pro-racism at all. It's
no. Everybody gets so offended by everything nowadays, and it's totally ridiculous.
Go ahead, Brad. I'm sorry, Matt. Go ahead.
But I will say this. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's kind of like I always look at it. You know, if something is done as a joke, you're not purposely trying to hurt somebody's feeling. You're telling a joke. If you are the butt of the joke, laugh, because you know what? It's a joke because it is funny, even if it's not true. I mean, I remember in the 90s when Dennis Leary put out his No Cure for Cancer CD. I was in college doing college radio. We used to play stuff in that all the time. And I still remember him going, you know, I was into heavy metal, you know, hard rock and everything. And he does this joke about, what do you mean? You know, heavy metal kids are listening to heavy metal albums and then they're killing themselves. What's the problem? That sounds like an unemployment problem, you know, issue, you know, problem taken care of, you know? And it's like, and the way he put it out, it was funny. It's like, I'm basically the butt of the joke, but I'm not the stereotype. I don't really fall into the joke. So it's like, why am I going to be offended? You know? Right. You're taking the stereotype, you make a joke of the stereotype, and it's like, so why am I going to be offended?
Listen, I'm not a fan of being vulgar just to be vulgar.
Right, right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all for, like, you know, I certainly wouldn't, you know, be a fan of anybody that was putting out racial epithets as their stand. None of that. I mean, but if you have a smart joke that really is innocuous, that can be misconstrued as being something that it's not, that's where it gets frustrating. And I'll tell you, I make a decent living doing stand-up. At least I did before the pandemic.
Right.
And before this podcast.
And I think the reason that I'm able to, obviously I'm not like a huge name. I've done a decent amount of TV, but nothing that's going to make me have a huge fan base. The reason I've been able to knock out a decent career is because I can write clean material that doesn't ruffle people's feathers.
Right.
I can do corporate gigs. I can do churches, synagogues. I can, like a night of comedy. I can do any of that shit without having people fucking lose their mind.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but that begs the other question, and I keep digging rabbit holes here, but it's just me being me. Do you find that frustrating? I mean, like, it's aside from the corporate gigs, the churches, which is great, like that in and of itself is fantastic. But is there a part of you artistically that, from an observational humorist, as we talked about earlier, and all these things, where, I mean, that's kind of what humor was, right? I mean, it was like, you know, even going back to Lenny Bruce, it was that pushing that envelope. But again, it was based on observation. It was based on thinking. It made you think. George Carlin, who I used to call the prophet. I used to consider him more of a prophet because of his observations were so unique and cool.
Genius.
Funny as shit.
Funny, yeah.
Do you find frustration in like the sense that if you were to go to a club that you have to,
but at a club you can pretty much do whatever the fuck you want at comedy.
Right. Okay. Right.
It's when you get to do like, you know, when you're getting 3,500 a week to do a cruise and you're performing in a theater for at least 1,000 people and they have kids in the audience. And
no, I'm sorry.
But what I'm saying is, of course, man, there's nothing better than going out there without any hindrance or any, this thing came up on my computer, without worrying about anything that you say. And that's at a comedy club in New York City.
Yeah.
You know, that's like, you're never going to have a club owner in New York say, hey, man, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why did you say that?
Yeah.
Won't.
But okay. So I'm sorry. Now I'm going to present another paradox, which is maybe in a way this pushback on both sides is an interestingly good thing, because it's now you're fighting. That friction is what causes new things to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you had a situation, as you said, in New York, where there is no rules, you say whatever the fuck you want, which is great, because that's a creative world to be in. So there's a lot of positive to that. But if you're not pushing anything, like imagine remember, okay, so I'm going to use a jazz analogy here. When the new thing happened with
I'm going to cut you off for a second, because it's interesting you say like jazz. I also will tell you this in regards to a very similar thing with music and stand-up. There's different demographics for stand-up comedians. There's heavy metal stand-up comedians. There's jazz stand-up comedians. There's, Barry Manilow stand-up comedians.
Wow.
Really? Oh, fuck yeah, man. Fuck yeah. And I'll tell you, the guys that like Brian Regan and Jim Gallagher,
our favorite, or that's my wife's favorite.
And guys that don't have to push any, like they could have kids in the audience, but are still fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
That's why they're making millions, because they're the best at it.
Yeah.
Right.
Lewis Black. Really good guy.
That's interesting.
Now the other thing is too, like when you have comedians that are just plain up funny and they can make like a lot of observation comedy, etc. And really, in all honesty, life, it gives you such an empty palette for you to work with that, obviously you can make fun of anything. Then you have your comedians like your George Carlins, like your Lewis Blacks, like Ray mentioned, who really are guys who have something to say. And I think what they do is they use comedy as the vessel to get their point across. Now, I'm trying to think of how I'm formulating this question. Is there a difference in that comedian, like in other words, a Lewis Black or a George Carlin, they have something to say, and how they're going to get it to you is by using jokes. Whereas you're making people laugh.
Those are the comedians I say that make you think. They're not just making you laugh. They have a message behind it, and those guys are geniuses. They're brilliant. I mean,
are they on like a different level?
Absolutely.
Like you know what I mean? Like I'm a DJ, but I'm not in New York scratching and shit like that. I think it's a completely different thing. Same scenario.
I'll put this into perspective. This was like really, and you got to understand, man, dude. I have seen pretty much and shared the stage like literally the same night with everybody from Seinfeld to. You name it. You fucking name it. Damon Wayans.
Yeah.
I toured with John Pinette, legendary.
Really funny man.
But my point is this: the greatest, and Dave Chappelle, and Kevin Hart, the greatest thing I ever took witness to. I lived in New York City during 9/11, and I literally did the first show after 9/11 in New York City. Mm-hmm. No clubs were open. It was 2 days after, and I did the first show at Stand Up New York, and I hosted it. There's maybe 16 people in the audience. Who pops in? Because it's literally the only club that's open. Chris Rock. Chris Rock did a half hour, and dude, I'm not fucking kidding you. a half hour about 9/11, 2 days after 9/11 in New York City.
Oh my
And
God.
it was fucking brilliant, hilarious, made you think it was the greatest set I've ever seen to this day.
Wow.
And that's like a whole different level. That guy is a fucking genius, the greatest in my eyes. I mean, him and Chappelle to me were the best. Chappelle is the most prolific fucking guy I've ever seen. He had like 4 hours in like 1 year or whatever. I mean, like,
yeah. Yeah, no, Chappelle's out of his mind. It's amazing stuff. I know it is, and it's and it hits you. It hits you. It's like you know, Chappelle has a way of delivering something that you literally are gutted by. You feel it. You viscerally feel it. Like
going back to what I said earlier, how there's different demographics. I mean, listen, there's a certain genius to being clean, innocuous, but still gut-wrenching funny, whether it be Jerry, whether it be Gaffigan or whatever. And then there's a certain genius of people that make you think and have a message behind what they're saying and also make it hilarious. So there's all kinds of it. And and then you have comics that are like talking about eating pussy and farting and shitting. And I hate that. I'm not a fan, but some of these guys are making millions doing it. So whatever.
So Brad, that brings me to, this is kind of like a closing question is, as a comedian, are you on this? Do you think about evolving in terms of what you're doing now and where you're going? Like, is there I'm
thinking about quitting comedy.
When I think of comedy, I think of two words: Nikki Glazer. I'm sorry, let it go. All right, I got so close to myself because of Nikki Glazer, but I'll explain that, Dan. You were going to have Bill Cosby on next week. I will not be on for that show. I'm sorry, but go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I don't know. I was out of my mind when I booked it. No.
But I'm saying, like, like George Carlin was an evolution.
No. Listen, you're always evolving. In a perfect world, I have to say, I'm a much better comedian this year than I was the year prior. I mean, I'm always creating. I like the new stuff that I'm writing, whatever. But I will say, for me, I took 2 years ago. I'm very fortunate. I came upon an opportunity. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Opie and Anthony, the radio show, but through my literary agent, I was given the opportunity to write Anthony Cumia's life story. I'd never written a book before, so I had books written and implemented humor in other authors' books, but I never took on a project of writing a book. I did it, and now I'm writing my first novel. So, I mean, that something
rocks, man.
Awesome. That's awesome.
My book is the one I wrote was called Permanently Suspended. Whether you're a fan of Opie and Anthony, or whether you hate Anthony Cumia, because I know he's a controversial guy,
right?
It's a great story. It's a rags to riches story. His story is mind-boggling. I can't believe we didn't get any deals to get it adapted as a film, because I think it's much better story than Private Parts. I said it.
Really?
Dude,
well, you know what? Give it time.
Life story is
give it time.
Insane.
Give it time. That shit will come around. It'll come around.
It definitely will. It definitely will.
No matter what culture is taking prominence at any point, there's always the counterculture. It's just the yin yang of life. It's just the way it works. It just always does that,
It's true.
So,
On a closing note, Brad, does people go up to you and say, "Hey, say something funny"? Did he say that?
I mean, I've had.
Jesus.
I hate that. When you hate that,
Brad, only Dan.
No, but you know what? Because I get stuff. Oh, don't you know this song? You're a DJ. That doesn't mean I fucking wrote the song. I don't know what the hell it is. You know what I mean? Like,
somebody walk by, you go, "You're a DJ."
No, I love that when people are like, "Hey, dude, play me something. Play me Hotel California. Play me something."
Yes.
Go fuck yourself.
On my DJ Facebook page, I actually got a burst of likes, and like where I'm up to over 1,100 likes, from people, but they're all from the Philippines.
And they're all.
And I said, I'm like the David Hasselhoff of the fucking Philippines. This is great, right? Like I'm expecting I go over there, I do a tour. Like Danny J is the shit out there, right? Then it turns out there's a Danny J in Europe who's a DJ on the radio, right? And because I keep getting in Tagalog language. I keep getting, can you play this song? Can you play that song? Can you play this song? I'm like,
Yeah, I think you
not
should
on the radio.
take a ride to the Philippines. Come back in a year or so.
I should announce it on my page. I'm coming. I'm coming, folks. I'm coming. I'll come back with 3 wives because that's their national import. Their
Andy,
national
scream it again, honey. I'm sorry.
Brad, this was great, and I
This
really
was
appreciate you
great,
coming
Brad.
on, Brad. And I'm
Pleasure to
so
meet
glad.
you. It rocked.
I got to say, I met Brad a number of years ago, and Brad's just a really all-around cool guy.
Really nice guy.
Forget about the comedian part of it. He's just a really cool guy. He
He's
loves
got a killer
pizza.
drum set behind him too.
He's got a
Oh
killer
my
drum
God,
set.
Brad! I see that thing. Mine's
You
black. Go ahead.
That's what she said. And then what happened is it's just so great to have you on. And Brad came up in like a Facebook feed with something. I said, you know what? I want to have Brad on, and I didn't have a chance to. And I'm so glad that, Brad, you were able to like real quick say, hey, let's do it. Let's do it up. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Brad.
My pleasure, and it's really I enjoyed speaking with all you guys. It's a good group, and yeah, when things get normal, maybe we'll do a live show and get bagels. That'd be hilarious.
That'd be awesome. Bagels and pizza.
Brad,
Pizza
we hate each other's fucking guts, but it's just something.
Yeah, I'll pull back the curtain. I don't like DJs at all. I'll be honest. No DJ likes other DJs. I only have them on the show because I know them, but otherwise it would be like, no, this is just me.
Chris, I'm going to get some orange juice now.
Yeah, a little bit of orange tea, a little bit of sweet tea from Wawa. Yeah.
Freshly squozed.
You got it.
All right,
Well, Brad Trackman, we're gonna have your links
Thank you, Brad.
in the description below. So make sure you check out Brad's links on the what are this? Is that on you said that was on Amazon or what was that on? I'm sorry.
So Barnes & Noble, Amazon, or anywhere you buy books. It's in
Okay.
store.
Okay, very, very good. Because you want to check Brad out. Brad is a very, very funny comedian, guys.
He's
And
very
right
funny.
now, I think everybody needs a little bit of comedy in their life.
Yes, they
honestly,
do.
I
Yes,
think
they
it's
do.
the best time to do it. So thank you so much, Brad. For Ray, for Chris, for Matt, myself, I'm Danny J. Until next time, we'll see you after dark.
Guys, take care of yourself. Be safe. See ya.
Looks like the sun's coming up. Was that as good for you as it was for me? Join us next time for DJ's After Dark.